The purpose of the structural memory techniques is to help you create an orderly structure for your mental images. In the same way that a building has a structure, each information to be memorized must have a structure or framework around which it is organized to help you memorize the items in an order. This lesson will introduce you to the most valuable memory technique of all time, known as the memory palace technique, and the next lessons will treat the other two structural techniques, the PEG memory system and the mind mapping technique. In short, the memory palace method works like this. You take with you the images you want to memorize, created with the encoding memory techniques, and you embark on an imaginary journey through a place you know well, such as your home or your daily commute to work. Then, in different places that follow a certain order, you place a picture and make a mental connection between it and the place. For example, you could imagine a tiger laying in your living room, then a shark swimming in your bathtub, and then Brad Pitt washing dishes in your kitchen. All of these images, personalized by your mind, are extremely powerful triggers for your memories. When you want to remember these items again, you simply go through the route markers in the same sequence and all the images will appear in your mind's eye. This ancient method is literally the king of memory techniques. Its power is so incredible that all memory athletes use it invariably in their memory training and in memory competitions. It is based on the fact that it is easier to remember new information that is linked to the information you already have, which in this case is your memory palace. In this way, this technique uses familiar locations to help you memorize new information. Any person must have used several routes in his life over and over again. By frequently using these routes, the paths and their standing out points get deeply imprinted in the brain and can be used as structures for our memories. It has been said that the phrases "in the first place," "in the second place," and the like originated in this ancient practice that associates memories with various physical places. Now, let's answer the 100 points question. What is a memory palace? Contrary to what you may think from what you have seen so far about this technique, a memory palace is not a very complicated thing. On the contrary, its main feature is that you know it very well. It may be your home, your journey to work in the morning, your neighborhood, or your town. Along these places, there are specific locations that you always visit in the same order, so you can create a path in your mind made up of places that you know well and can easily visualize. To use these places as mental structures, you populate them with images representing whatever you want to remember. Each stage of those routes can be used as a mental peg, where you hang some images that help you form the associations needed for memorization. Another important thing is that memory palaces don't necessarily have to be buildings. They can be routes through your neighborhood, or they can be routes in your favorite computer game. They can be real or imaginary, indoors or outdoors, so long as there's some order that links one place to the next, and so long as they are very familiar to you. It is recommended to prepare your memory palaces beforehand, and even develop your collection of memory palaces to rotate their use for different memory tasks, because they can be reused after some time. The images which you have placed there for remembering one set of things fade and disappear when you make no further use of them, but the palace remains in the memory and can be used again by placing their set of images for another set of material. Now, let's view how to create a memory palace. Building a memory palace is a very simple process. You already have several memory palaces in your mind, but you probably have not yet considered them. Your main memory palace can be your home because you know all its details. Begin by sketching your house on a piece of paper. Then, decide a definite route from the entrance to the last room. You can select these places either in your imagination or by actually taking a walk to see them. Just pick out places that form a logical path as you walk around from start to finish. Now, standing in front of every room, you choose and give a number to a minimum of 4 to 5 objects in every room from left to right, along with your route. They will become locations in your mental palace. Write those numbers you gave in your sketch. Finally, memorize your route by following the numbers from the main entrance to the last room of your memory palace. The best way to memorize it is to take a mental walk along your route, which should not be too difficult because it is an extremely familiar place for you. Now, the mental palace is all yours. You own a new mental structure ready to support the memorable images created with the encoding techniques you will learn in the next chapters. The first item on the list will be associated with your first place in your memory palace, the second item with your second place, and so on. Depending on the type of memory palace used, the memory palace method has two variants, the Roman room technique and the journey technique. The general principle behind both versions is the same. The difference is the type of memory palace that you use in each case. The Roman room technique works by pegging images to objects in a room. The room can be entirely imaginary, so you can put in it every wacky image that you wish. Here's how it works. To use the technique, imagine a room that you know, such as your living room, your bedroom, or your office. You can use the order of these objects to memorize a list of items by making simple associations between items in a list and the objects and linking them into a vivid image, perhaps in your mind smashing them together, putting one on top of the other, or such like. Then, move on through the list, linking each item with the next object in your room. To recall information, simply take a tour around the room in your mind, visualizing the known objects and their associated images. This technique can be expanded by going into more detail and keying information to be remembered to smaller objects. You can use other rooms to store different categories of information. There is no need to restrict this information to rooms. You can use your yard or your neighborhood to expand your memory palace according to your needs. The journey technique. If we wish to remember a lot of information, we will need a large number of places. The journey technique, as another variant of the memory palace technique, is based on a mental journey through a place you know well, like a street, a neighborhood, or a town. Along that journey, there are specific locations that you often visit in the same order. This could, for example, be your journey to work in the morning, the route to visit a friend, or a tour around a museum or a park. It seems natural to make your first journey a walk through the town or village where you live, but you can also choose an imaginary journey extracted from your favorite books or computer games. This variant is exceptionally versatile and efficient, as it can host a large number of locations. However, it is recommended to use journeys with a maximum of 50 locations. Otherwise, you will struggle more to learn the locations than the information you have to learn. If the material you need to memorize is larger, you can divide it into chapters and use one journey for each chapter. Just imagine what it would be like to have your collection of mental palaces ready to be filled with memorable images, each intended for a certain type of information. It would be like upgrading your memory 10 times. Let's view a little example. I will teach you how to memorize the 5 essential characteristics of an entrepreneur by transforming them into images, then placing these images along a mental journey. Here are the 5 items we have to learn in order: motivation, passion, vision, confidence, and decision-making. The first step is to associate these abstract characteristics with tangible things. For the word motivation, I will associate the image of a human fist raised up. For passion, I can associate a passion fruit. For the word vision, my first thought is about the sight, and I will associate it with a pair of glasses. For confidence, I will use the image of a superhero, for example, Superman. And for decision-making, I will associate the image of a judge. Now, I have 5 images: fist, passion fruit, glasses, Superman, and judge, which I will put in a memory palace, a well-known journey. By linking these images with the places, we get significant memory triggers when we have to remember the characteristics of a good entrepreneur. As long as your images are clear, there is no way you can make a mistake. You will remember the list for days, even if you don't practice it. And because the images are what you make them, the journey with its predetermined points, your memory palace, can be used an infinite number of times for any number of different lists. But what makes this method so powerful and versatile? When memory athletes store the information, the scientists have discovered that they use a region in their brains, the hippocampus, which is especially important for spatial memory and navigation. It is the same way that a taxi driver uses his brain to navigate within a large city. But why would the brain of a mental athlete look like the brain of a taxi driver? Because memory training is like a mental journey along some imaginary routes, having certain images placed in predefined places. I think you have already formed an image about the first structural method, so in the next lesson, I will introduce you to another powerful structural technique, which you have certainly used quite often in one form or another, known as the PEG memory system. See you in the next lesson.